Imagine a scene of brutal winter, deep in the Canadian Arctic. An entire village, with its inhabitants, their homes, their belongings, simply vanishes from the face of the earth. No bodies, no signs of struggle. Dogs were vital for survival in the Arctic, inseparable companions. Within hours, an investigation team, led by Sergeant Carroll, arrived at the scene. The graves in the local cemetery were open and empty. The bodies had vanished. This was a sacrilege for Inuit culture, and something they would never do on their own. The desecration of the grave suggested an external force, something that did not respect and care about the animals. One mentioned strange pulsating blue lights seen over the lake on the night of the disappearance, suggesting an unterrestrial origin. The strange lights, the disappearance without a trace, the intact but starved dog bodies, the desecrated graves. All of this would fit into a scenario of extraterrestrial intervention. While Joe Labelle's original account and the mounted police investigation, the idea that an advanced civilization could have collected an entire community for study, experimentation, or other unknown purposes, is both terrifying, fueling both the fear of the unknown and the hope of contact. Another spoke of an unidentified flying object, a UFO, that had hovered over the village before the disappearance. Or, perhaps, a collective hysteria triggered by some unknown event, leading to a disorganized and fatal exodus into the hostile Arctic environment. The possibility that the village was swallowed by an ice crevasse or a sinkhole, but the absence of any sign of geological disaster makes this hypothesis less likely. These additions, although not confirmed by the official mounted police investigation, which remained skeptical, contributed to the supernatural and extraterrestrial aura of the case, making it a favorite among you. There were no signs of struggle, no blood. It was as if the inhabitants had simply The site was exactly as Labelle had described, a ghost village, perfectly preserved. Could it have been a wild animal attack? Impossible. There were no signs of struggle or blood. However, the story of Lake Anjikuni, it continued to be told and retold, gaining new details and fueling popular imagination, especially through articles and mystery magazines and books. And Arctic animals, no matter how fierce, would not be able to remove all bodies. A sudden disease that wiped everyone out. A swift epidemic that took them all at once, with no time for burials or rituals. And why would there be no bodies, not even a skeleton, if the abandonment time was considerable? But why would they leave everything behind, including their sled dogs? And why would there be no tracks in the snow, which would preserve any footprint for days? The untouched snow around the village showed no outgoing footprints, only those of Labelle and the investigation team. They would never be abandoned to their fate, much less left to starve. It was as if the village had been abandoned in a hurry, but without panic, without struggle, without any trace of violence. Labelle, cautious and with keen instincts, felt a chill down his spine. This isn't an ancient legend, but a real event, documented by witnesses, that has become one of history's greatest and most disturbing mass disappearance mysteries. As he approached, something felt wrong. There was no smoke rising from the chimneys, no barking dogs, no sound of children playing. A sepulchral silence hung over the normally vibrant settlement. He entered the village, calling out the names of the inhabitants. He knew. No response. The houses were intact, the fires out. Tools were scattered, clothes hung, and even firearms were left behind. Something unthinkable for Inuit hunters. Most disturbing was the discovery of 7 sled dogs, starved to death, tied to trees, and buried. Labelle, shocked and terrified, rushed to the nearest telegraph office, about 30 kilometers away, to report the incident to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. The investigation deepened the mystery in an even more macabre way. Theories began to emerge, each more bizarre than the last. Attempting to fill the void, the Mounted Police, after an exhaustive investigation that lasted weeks, found no plausible explanation. The case was filed as an unexplained disappearance. What truly happened to the inhabitants of that Inuit village? Were they taken by unknown forces, victims of a bizarre natural phenomenon? Or did they simply get lost in the relentless vastness of the Arctic? The mystery of Lake Anjikuni is a haunting reminder that, even in our modern world, there are places and events that defy all logic and force us to confront the inexplicable, and perhaps some secrets the Arctic will never reveal. Some later accounts, which appeared in books and articles about, added even more fantastic elements to the story, transforming it into an Arctic urban legend. The most popular theory, especially among paranormal and ufology enthusiasts, is that the village was the victim of a mass alien abduction. Another perspective suggests that the event may have been an extreme and rare natural phenomenon, perhaps a form of mass air displacement that created a temporary vacuum, or a type of optical illusion that disoriented everyone, leading them to get lost in the vast frozen expanse. There is also the possibility that the story has been exaggerated or even fabricated over time. Lake Anjikuni continues to be a remote and inhospitable place, guarding its secret under layers of ice.